Hello, thanks for joining me again. Still with me, huh? After all this talk about ahead of the curve thinking, ahead of the curve music, ahead of the curve media, ahead of the curve lifestyle is what I want to talk about today. Mostly about food because I just find that there's so many bad choices on the supermarket shelves these days. And it's kind of been that way for a few decades. I used to fall for the corporate pranks all along, and because that's what we're bombarded with everywhere we go, and every stupid strip mall we see all these horrible fast food restaurants, and it's convenient to go there. Yeah, it's cheap. For just a couple bucks, you can have a meal, but at the same time, you're slowly killing yourself eating this trash. So I've learned to avoid a lot of fast food. Haven't completely wiped all of it out of my life yet, but I would say for the most part, I avoid the cheese ball fast food chains that you know about, that you've heard about for years. Um, I just don't want to put that garbage in my body anymore. And I know that's hard. That's a hard step for people to take. For one thing, there's a lot of peer pressure to hang out at these places, and there's a lot of advertising and marketing that penetrates the mind that tells you this stuff's okay. And you see it on TV, your best friend, right? And if your TV says it's good, and everybody prays to TV every night, at least something like a 90% of the population. I don't. I hardly watch TV anymore because I know it's just full of dumb commercials and really boring shows that are just redundant, that have the same plots over and over again. I watch a little news and a little sports, but I don't get hooked on it like I used to. Just because it's a big waste of time to do that. I would rather create videos like this, just like I would watch your videos if they had knowledge in it, if I knew about it. Another thing we saw in the past year was a bunch of lawsuits with the big pharmaceutical companies having to fork out huge settlements for basically bribing physicians to prescribe their awful fake pharmaceutical drugs. So I'm not saying all pharmaceutical companies are bad, and I'm not saying all their drugs are bad, but a lot of that stuff is just fake to pad their stats. You're probably going, what? It's has to do with the stock market. Okay, the reason Wall Street invests in these corporations is because they think that the stock is going to keep going up if quarterly profits keep going up. So if the company can't figure out a way to increase profits, then their stock goes down. That's how it works. It's how Wall Street works. Okay, so just letting you know, I've done a lot of research. You don't have to believe a word of it, but I did a lot of work for people to kind of speed up the decision making on what you should eat. And what I found is the best food I've found actually is organic food. You see that? USDA organic. That means that about 98% of it is organic or something of that nature. It's not, doesn't seem to be any food out there that's 100% organic unless it's something you grow yourself in your backyard. It gives me a really different, energetic feeling when I eat stuff like this. I feel like a real human instead of just some corporate puppet. So I really think this has helped change my life. And my favorite food, this is just in the morning. I do not put milk on this. Milk is one of the garbage foods I eliminated because we were all brainwashed as kids that milk has something for every body. Remember those commercials? Turns out milk has a lot of chemicals in it. I'm not talking about organic milk, but the popular 2% low-fat milk you buy on the regular supermarkets. That stuff's terrible. As soon as I got rid of that from my diet, my health improved a lot. Just like I cut steak out of my diet, all that rubbery junk stays in your stomach. really messes up your stomach. And a lot of people don't want to admit that because they love the taste of steak. And it's what a lot of people were raised on, so it becomes part of their identity, and they tell themselves, oh, this is me, this is what I like. But really it was something that was really forced on you by a bunch of lousy corporations that didn't care about your health. Kind of like tobacco companies, you know. Remember what they say about cigarettes? Even though the warning label, the Surgeon General warning label's been on the cigarettes since the early 60s, basically a lot of smokers, chain smokers, will say, oh, I can't quit. I want to quit, but I can't. Luckily, I never smoked cigarettes because I always thought it was stupid from the start. I always knew that Hollywood influenced this kind of crap, and I didn't want to let Hollywood brainwash me like it brainwashed something like 90% of the whole freaking world. So anyway, I think a more organic lifestyle is better. This is just my opinion. I'm not a doctor, or I don't have any credentials that in any way give me credibility. All I can tell you is that the junk that these horrible doctors told me about was wrong. Okay, and these guys have credentials. They told me that my stomach problems had nothing to do with diet, and then I just didn't believe them. Luckily, I didn't believe them and did some research and found out I was right and they were wrong. So how is it that I know more than these clowns who prescribe these awful, 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 awful pharmaceutical drugs and horrible, horrible lifestyles? So I found that my favorite food has become a salad with spinach, tomatoes, and carrots, all organic with a little bit of dressing. And you know what? It tastes great. It makes me feel great. I feel a lot better when I eat that than when I used to eat the awful junk food trash that's so popular on TV. Partly because I learned that TV is just a bunch of crap. It's an idiot box full of bad advice, especially from advertisers. And it's also full of bad programming by uncreative people. And I found that my stuff is more creative than I make on my own. So anyway, I love these salads that I'm eating. I love this cereal. And I love probably about 20 to 30 other items that I buy regularly that are either organic or seem to be not so bad for you. One of the ways I can tell that is if when I read the ingredients, if it has long words I can't pronounce, I just say forget it, I'm not eating this. And that's very common with frozen foods. So anyway, I hope you will consider this at least. Maybe you already know all this and know a lot more than I do. I'm just a student of this and I'm starting to learn this. I'm trying to wipe genetically modified food out of my life, okay? Because since 1996, a ton of American food has been composed of this genetically modified garbage that in, tests have shown to cause tumors and cancer and other health problems. So I'm just trying to live, a healthy lifestyle, and it's made me a happier person, makes me feel more energetic, and it makes me feel good to share this information.